people gotta understand. Realistically, you gotta pay to play. For some reason, I always understood that. Like early on, I was just dumping money in marketing, building the brand, and just making it, what we are today. And I knew it cost, a lot of money on my pockets and everything to invest into it, but it was the right thing to do long term. And people rather, fuck, dude, $500, $1,000 for a video or whatever. They're thinking like, shit, that's a payment for my razor, bro, my Can-Am, dude. Like, I'd rather go fucking have some fun. But what has a better turnaround, like
Exactly.
a epic video that can bring more customers and bring more business, or a weekend of, just having a great time.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Stay Shining, Stay Grinding podcast. I am your host, Carlos Castro, with my co-host,
Jose. What's going on, guys?
All right. We are the Stay Shining, Stay Grinding podcast. We are an entrepreneur, first generation Latino American podcast. We like to focus a lot on the growths and the figuring out of what it's like to start a small business and starting it from scratch. So if you are interested in entrepreneurship, if you're interested in creatives, I'm a creative. Jose's in the construction industry, and if you are familiar with any of those things, continue to listen to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share on YouTube, and also subscribe and share on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcast. We are on those platforms. Also follow us on Instagram, TikTok. We're all on the social medias as well. So yeah, how's your weekend?
Good, man. Good. It was a laid back weekend. We did not watch the Super Bowl. We were in.
Oh yeah, we're kind of dating this right now, but that's okay. Yeah, you didn't watch the Super Bowl? I thought you guys would have watched it.
No, I'm not really a big football fan or anything like that. But we were just at home, with the kids. Yeah. Played some basketball. Had some friends over.
Okay.
Yeah, spent some time. But Saturday, I didn't go hiking. My back was hurt from the last time.
You've been hiking. Okay.
So I've been hiking every Saturday, but then I was hurt. I had a what is that? Sciatic nerve or whatever. Yeah. So it was kind of like bothering me. I was walking off in Chueco, and
so you know what? I actually thought about what causes that, and me and my wife were very into health and fitness and working out. And then I told her about what happened, and she said that it could potentially be from you not stretching.
Oh, before
or after your exercises.
Okay. That could be because it started like 10 to 15 minutes up the hike when I started. Mm-hmm. And then I just got this sharp pain, and I was like, whoa, we're hiking. And then they were like, after that was done, like I felt the pain, but my body was hot and warm or whatever. But then the next morning was when I was like bothering more. And then Monday was when it was really like, fuck. Like,
no, I've been through that, and I've been through that. Like, I think the last time I had something like that happen to me was a few months ago. No, like about a year ago. But it definitely does have to do a lot with how you stretch and your mobility. Like, mobility is like one of the biggest things ignored when it comes to exercise. Mm-hmm. And everybody ignores it. They think that just because they're lifting and pushing and moving that's it. But like they don't think about like the aspect that like some days you have to set like even 20-30 minutes on your recovery day. Like that's what they call an active recovery day.
Yeah.
Just focus on like those mobility movements where you're not lifting, you're not doing anything. All you're doing is just moving the muscles.
Okay.
So some food for thought, something you can think about in the future so you don't end up hurting your back again.
I had to miss it this Saturday, but I'm ready for next Saturday.
Cool.
I went with the the good old Sobadora.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. She hooked you up. Lined me up, freaking pushed on all the nerves, fucking hurt, but feel better. Laid back weekend. What about you guys? What you guys got going on?
We did watch the Super Bowl. I didn't really watch it entirely. We mainly watched it for the halftime show since like my wife's a huge Rihanna fan. That that was cool. And I mean, other than that, just a little bit of work. I try not to work so much on the weekends anymore. I like to kind of focus on my family and myself on
Mm-hmm.
the weekends. So I ran a lot this weekend. I want to say I ran like about 8 miles this weekend, so it was fun.
Nice.
In total, not on the same day. That would not there yet. I do want to get there at some point though, where I can run 8 miles straight.
In one whole.
Yeah.
Damn.
Right now it's 4, so
That's not bad.
yeah, I'm trying to get to like 5 or 6. But yeah, I mean, I'm training. I'm getting closer to my competition. Like month. Like right now, I'm still. It's on the 18th, so I have a few more days before I have a whole month. Once I get to the whole month, like once I have the 4-week period, I'm just gonna be drilling, being an animal, because I need to cut down
Yeah, yeah.
about 10 pounds. I can get that. I can make that in a week, but like I want to make it by the time the competition comes. I don't want to be cutting weight during the week of.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
I have to also like let go of carbs and stuff like that. There's so much that goes in line with like doing stuff like this, but I feel like it's just a challenge for me. Like
Yeah.
I like to put myself in these predicaments where like I challenge myself physically,
Yeah.
because it just really gives me that it gives me that like sense of like continuing. Like it just really pushes me. It makes everything shift when I put myself in that position.
Yeah, yeah.
I take everything more serious. Like Saturday, we didn't have anything going on other than the kids were sick, but like ran in the morning, and then just like from that one run in the morning, it just like turned a switch in my head, and I just like went on drive mode, dude. It was pretty crazy. So it's been pretty cool. Like I enjoy what I do right now. But not just because I'm doing the competition. I think it's just like a motivation to just like continue. So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's one great thing about working out, that you get a workout in, it's early or whatever, you just feel really good throughout the day. I know I felt it. I was on a good 4-week stretch, working out almost every day, doing the hikes, some weightlifting, some running, some Peloton. And then this week I could, she was like, I went to the sobadora, and she like fixed me up and everything. And she was like, no working out for 3 to 4 days or whatever.
Yeah.
And I missed it. I was like, God damn. You start to get into this rhythm and to the habit and everything, and it pumps up your blood. You feel good. And then after you stop again, you're like, oh man,
I usually feel so I haven't been injured lately. Knock on wood, actually. But I noticed that when I get injured, it's because I get too far ahead of myself mentally. So I get to a point where I'm not thinking anymore, and I'm just moving. So then I forget about those extra steps that get me to the goal. Okay. So like sometimes when I would get hurt during jiu-jitsu, I would, let's say, not stretch before class, or I wouldn't take the warm-ups as serious. And then I end up getting caught, tweaking my shoulder or my neck or my knee. So I always found it that even if I feel confident, like take those extra measures before you get to that point. Okay. So potentially, I don't know, that's me, but potentially maybe you had a few weeks of continuous rhythm of working out and training, and you're, I'm feeling it, I'm good. And then maybe that one day you forgot to like do a certain warm up you usually do. And then like, and then it's a snowball. It ends up snowballing, and then you end up getting hurt. Cause that's what happens to me all the time. Is every time I get hurt, I'm climbing a hill. And then I for some odd reason forget to do something, and I end up getting injured because I got too ahead of myself. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that might happen to you too, or may have happened to you too.
It could have been the case. Yeah. Well, let's dive into today's subject. I know some people have been asking about, how to price things out, or how do we figure out our pricing, and frankly, as a, new business owners, and it doesn't matter in what space you're in, but frankly, figuring out what, how much you're going to charge for a certain project, or for your time, or for your guys' time if you have employees. can be pretty difficult, especially if you, come from no background of like, when you work for a company, you're always just working, and you get paid, and you're working by the day or by the hour or whatever. And then, you suddenly want to start a business, and now you've got to figure out, well, how much should I charge? So that could be a very tricky step for business owners, especially starting off. What are your thoughts? Do you have any advice, any opinion, your opinion on how should someone kind of start to evaluate that, or your experiences versus, when you first started to now, like what has changed or how have you viewed it?
Yeah. I think first one is probably understanding the market that you're in. That's a big one. Whatever type of, business you have, understand the market, understand like the rates that people do give. Obviously, if you're just starting, you don't want to rate something that maybe at a higher rate. If you're just starting in a subtype of industry, you don't want to charge the high rate, obviously.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to start somewhere where you feel comfortable and where your value is, because at the end of the day, it's not really about the money. I think it's at the end of the day, it's like the value and the worth that you have for yourself. Like, if you feel like if you feel like your stuff is worth X amount of dollars, then that's how much it should be worth. Like,
yeah,
maybe to somebody else it's worth more or less, but that doesn't matter at the end of the day. It should matter to you how much you're worth. I when I first started, I started in photography, and I started quoting for family photos. That was my first thing. Like my first major self projects that I did was family photos. And I kind of like thought about like how much does it take me to one, shoot it, and then two, edit it. So yeah. I've always based down my numbers down to hours that I would spend.
Okay.
But I would try to understand like the market, like how much does it cost to take family photos, and then it would range between $100 to almost $2,000 for a session.
Yeah.
And at the time I was just starting, so I was like, okay, what do I feel comfortable with? And I think when I first started, I was charging like $200 to $300 per session.
Okay.
I was giving out bundles and deals, and I was just trying to get my feet wet at the time. So I just tried to arrange it as that. I was like, okay, I would spend an hour shooting, and then I would spend an hour to an hour and a half editing. So I would make, I would get paid about $100 an hour when I would do that. But definitely understanding the market, especially in my market. I don't really have too many overhead stuff. Like your market's different. You have overhead, a lot of overhead. Me, it just depends. Like if you're financing your gear, stuff like that, you also take that into consideration. If you're paying memberships for editing softwares and stuff like that, I think my overhead is nowhere near close to your overhead, because you have multiple things that you have to cover before you even get paid. So definitely the first one I do recommend is understanding the market.
Evaluating the market.
Yeah, understanding the market.
And evaluating your time too, because you made a good point. Sometimes, we jump in and we're like, you're really good at photography and videography and everything, and you want to jump in, you evaluated the marketplace. So we want to study like what's going on out there in the marketplace. But then sometimes a lot of people confuse like, okay, let's say I used to work at a place and I used to get $120. So now you think, all right, if I make $200 a day or 200 or $300 a day, but in half the time, I'll live happier with that. But then as a business owner, then you gotta, now you gotta deal with, like you said, overhead, taxes. Let's say if you're leasing an office or a space, laptop, camera gear. So now you got to also keep in mind that, to be able to win those 300 or whatever the case is, you need to invest maybe 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 in gear.
Yeah.
Which, what's the rate of return? How are you going to make that money back before you can actually start to profit?
So I don't even think you're going to see any return for your first few years.
Yeah.
To be honest.
That's what I'm saying.
Like if you're if you're starting a business and you're buying nice things and doing nice things, you may be doing it wrong.
Well, because a lot of people want to jump into business because they want to live, a better life or financially, but they think that when the first year or the second year or even the third year, they're gonna right away, the tree's gonna give fruit and you're gonna enjoy the fruits of the tree, which is it's a misinterpretation because in reality, sometimes you gotta like eat shit for 5 years or so, or maybe more. Because I'm still going through like that, the growing pains and the struggles of figuring it out. I'm on my 6th year. So in order for you to see like to enjoy the fruit from the tree, and pricing has a lot to do with it because it's trial and error. We didn't go to Harvard. We didn't, we don't have a degree in like business or anything, and we're figuring this out on the, like you said, on the job. Yeah, like trial and error. You go in there, you experiment with the project, you look at the outcome, you're like, all right, cool. Well, if I'm gonna charge $200 per man or $250 per man, and you calculate it in a way where like when you sell the price to your customer, that's what it is. You can't, oh, hey, I'm sorry, I took another 5 days, like, doing the math, you owe me another $3,000. Like that doesn't work that way. You close the deal, you close the contract. If you delivered slower than what you anticipated, that's your loss. But if you delivered sooner, then that could be your win. So it's tricky to figure out, hey, am I going to spend 10 days here, 15 days here? Because things might come up along the way that for me, construction, landscaping, I don't know what's underground. It may be harder for me to, analyze something and be like, all right, cool. Well, by the day, I'm gonna remove this dirt in 3 days. It might even take me 5 days, and then who's gonna pay the price for that? Me, right? So I think good point. You fall into pricing by experimenting on the job, and then looking at the marketplace and seeing roughly where everyone's at. Because if you're just starting off and you're looking at like, I don't know, a top-notch photograph firm or whatever, and they're at $500 an hour, when you're starting off with no one really knows who you are, your brand's not there or anything, you can't say my work is worth $500 an hour. We could say that, but people are probably not going to pay that, because some people also look at the brand and the details about it, how long you've been in business, your experience, do you have people. So a lot of that reflects on learning, and then as you start to develop and grow the brand, people are more than willing to be like, all right, cool, well, I see your work, I see the history, I see what you can do, I'll pay a premium for this.
Yeah, and also like if you're in my industry, which is a creative industry, if you do anything creative, photography, film, design, whatever, if you're just starting off, don't be afraid to even take a hit by doing free stuff. Because that free stuff, and one thing that I had to like evaluate through time was like, sometimes you do have to do some stuff for free when you're starting.
Yeah.
Now I can't do stuff for free. I wish I could, but you wanna have that stuff, because then that can be your portfolio for when you do have new clients, when you do have new opportunities. So sometimes when you're starting off, don't be afraid to take a couple hits in the beginning, to really understand the market. And who knows, maybe the avenue that you are deciding to chase is not the right one for you. I started off as a photographer. My first grasp and concept when I first started was, I want to be a photographer. I want to be a photographer and a videographer. I want to be in cinematography. And and then I ended up getting into website design, and I said, oh, maybe website design might be for me. And then I fell into so many avenues and valleys, and then now I'm at a point now where I found my niche. My niche is content creation and social media and management and marketing. So that's where my company is solely based off of now. So it's definitely like, we said, trial and error, understanding that too, but like being open to taking some free jobs, and even if I'm learning now, like when I give people my bid and my prices on what I offer, I get a little discouraged sometimes when people are like, oh, I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Because you can already tell when people are down or not down.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when they're like, you can already tell. But I get a little discouraged. I'm like, am I charging too much? But then at the same time, I'm like, nah, this is my worth. Like, this is how I feel I'm worth, So
that's always gonna be the I feel like that feeling will never go away.
yeah.
Like even starting off, dude, like my fucking hand will shake when I'm doing my numbers, and I'm like, this doesn't seem fucking right.
Yeah.
It's too high, and then you're convincing yourself to lower the goddamn price, and then but I learned the hard way in the trial and error. Like, the numbers don't fucking lie, dude. If you're putting your numbers and you're calculating your square feet, your linear feet, and all that material and everything, that number is what it is, and sometimes, like you said early on, because you want to get the gig or whatever, you convince yourself so hard-headedly to like lower that number, and then you lower the number, you get the job, and then you're like, fuck, I didn't make any money on it, or I didn't make enough money on it, or whatever. And it hurts the business, and it hurts your pockets and the investments you've done, because when you look at it in the long run, you can't go like that forever. But then you start to grow thick skin, and you're like, you know what, fuck it, the number, it looks high, it seems high, but it looks great. I'm just gonna send it out. The customer says, hey, I'm sorry, I can't work with that, then
or yes,
it really is what it is. Yeah. Like, so if they say yes, you're in. If they say no, then at least you know that you did your numbers right. You didn't hesitate. You didn't convince yourself to lower that number, and then your worth is there, because But then if you're gonna charge a premium, you have to understand too, like you said, you have to be delivering value. Like, it has to be quality. It has to be value. You can't charge a premium for shitty work. You can't. Do.
Yeah, I mean, I value my work. My work is my bond.
Mm-hmm.
My word is not really my bond, because sometimes I say things and it doesn't happen. But my work is my bond. Like, if you look at my work, it basically tells you what I have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And my work, I get commented on my work all the time, and I still feel like I'm at a position where I'm still learning and growing. Like, I'm like, always. This is only the, I've told Jose plenty of times, like, we're just scratching the surface. Like, for me too, like Anchor Mine projects, like, we're barely scratching the surface.
Mm-hmm.
I started off as a one-man band, and now I'm fortunate enough to have some people working with me, and we're getting to a point where, like, I'm starting to grow. So I want to be able to provide quality value and content for multiple people. One thing also that I actually thought about as you were talking, understanding like the budgets of your clients. Like, for example, in my industry, I work with a lot of local businesses. A lot of local businesses don't have the same budget. Your budget compared to somebody else's budget is going to be night and day for all we know.
Mm-hmm.
So I always ask people, I've had this issue one time when I first met with a client. They were not very happy with the fact that I didn't have an exact number for my service.
Oh.
And
like, they were expecting for you to say,
they're expecting for me to
bundle
have, like,
number 1,
this is how much,
bundle number 2, and bundle number 3, and you have fixed rates.
Yeah,
it's hard to do that.
For me, it's like, I don't have that. Like, me, I'm like, what can you afford? It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
If you are not comfortable telling me what you can afford, then maybe you need to check your numbers, because at the end of the day, if you want to get into, outside sources and vendors and stuff like that, and put your money in other places to help your businesses grow, you need to understand how much your company's making.
Yeah.
And to see if you can actually invest in that.
Yeah, how much you can roll back into.
Yeah, so if you don't have any numbers and you're just like, I'm just doing this just off of the whim, then, like, I would suggest first looking into your numbers, or talking to like a CPA or somebody that can help you with these numbers, and be like, hey, I'm interested in getting into, content creation and social media. How much money do you think we have for marketing?
Yeah.
So then when you meet with someone like me, I'll be like, look, what's your budget? And if you tell me your budget, then I'd be like, okay, this is what I can offer at this budget.
Yeah.
For me, it's not a scheme of like, how much money can I make off of this person? No, my whole gimmick is I want to provide quality content for your company. I want to help you highlight your company. So if a lot of people always think that, like, the issue of like trying to burn people because of the way you charge and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
insane. It's in when it comes to money, that's why everyone's so, everyone kind of, covers their necks up when it comes to
Mhm.
money. But like at the end of the day, if you know your worth is that, and if you have clients that are willing to speak up for you and say, hey, this is the guy that you may want to work with,
Yeah.
by all means, charge whatever the hell you feel comfortable with, because at the end of the day, it's your value, it's your worth. Me, I value my time. So my time, I break a lot of my quotes based off of my time,
Yeah.
how much time I will spend on a project. That's the biggest thing,
And for you, would you consider that you are pretty accurate on a project? You know how much time is going to be invested into it?
yeah.
Or is it like, are you there already where you're like, you know what? This particular project is going to take me 3 hours of editing,
Mhm.
no more or less. Like, I can charge around that. Or do you leave a cushion for a fourth hour or possibly even a fifth hour?
Knowing me, I'm a big procrastinator, and that's one thing that I'm working on now.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm like scaling
Yeah.
as far as like gaining a team, I do break down a lot of my projects that way, where I know, for example, like let's say I get a new client,
Mm-hmm.
the client wants us to handle their social media and they want us to shoot videos and photos.
Yeah.
Okay. Ideally our rate is usually based off of like how many times a month you guys want us to take care of your company.
Okay.
So depending on how many times a week we see each other will determine how much hours I'll spend at your project.
Okay.
And editing. So if, let's say we meet twice a week, okay, we're gonna meet twice a week for 4 hours every week.
Okay.
So that's 4 hours of shooting, and then I have to calculate an extra
Editing.
4 hours of editing.
Okay.
And then
And travel time and all that.
travel time, posting, all
Yeah.
that fun jazz, I can accommodate that. So usually, it varies per client. That's
Mhm.
why the whole budget scenario for me works best, because when I give somebody a flat rate, you may not find that flat rate
Yeah.
suitable for your brand when somebody else may.
Yeah.
So that's why I always tell people, and I'm very transparent when it comes to that. I say, look, what I'm charging this company may not be the same amount I should be charging you.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to do this for the money. Like I said again,
Mm-hmm.
I want to help your business grow. That's why our focus in Anchor Mind Projects is, our slogan is what is it? What do we say? Creating growth through media. Like we want to create growth through media. Like that's our focus, is like we want to help brands build and grow. So when it comes to breaking these numbers down, like, yeah, I try to calculate all that. My wife was huge in that, because she would wring my neck for not, like, oh, well, how many hours do you spend here? And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, you don't fucking know. And I'm like, no. She's like, well, you need to figure it out, because you can't, what if you get somebody else? How are you going to quote people? And I'm like, that's true. So now what I do is, like, when I work on projects or stuff, I kind of set a timer. Okay, I started at 10:05. I finished this project at 10:35. Great. It took me almost 30 minutes to complete this one project.
Yeah.
Great. So I know how much time it takes me to do this or do that. So
you had to go and collect data, metrics, and time yourself and see. So you kind of tie that around. See, that's the thing that a lot of us don't see when we go into business. It's like, back to, hey, I used to win 120. I'm going to charge 200. I'm already $80 better off a day. So if you do that by the week, by the month, dude, I'm good. I'm set. But then who's paying for the gas, for your travel time, and the time you're bidding? You don't win money, because sometimes, I give out bids for free. I don't charge for consultation fees. So if I spend half a day bidding and I don't get any jobs, that's half a day. That's a loss. But if you track your data, track your metrics, even for my projects, like, I find it easier for me to bid, per square footage, per linear feet, like per irrigation valves, rather than calculating, I'm going to spend 17 and a half days in this job at X amount of dollars per
day,
4-man crew per day, materials and overhead and everything separate. Because what if I don't spend 17 and a half days? What if I spend 22 days? Like we were saying earlier, I lose money there. And I've even lost money in square footage and linear feet while I was experimenting on the prices.
Yeah.
But then I learned, the pace of my guys. Like, okay, this crew works faster than this crew. I can charge differently for these guys than for these guys. And especially, having so many guys on field, even if you have a project manager, even if you, stop by every now and then, they may not always be as efficient as like the day you showed up and you tracked your data and you're like, all right, these guys are giving me a production rate of, 300 blocks a day. But then the day you leave, that you track your data and then they're giving you, 270 blocks a day or whatever. So it just for me, I find it more easier or better for me and works well for me doing linear feet, square footage, by the valves, irrigation valves, or, square footage on mulch, on soil removal, demo. It's all square footage, linear feet. And I just played with the numbers along the way so I could figure out, all right, this number works well for us. And like you said, every project is different because, if I'm working by the mountains, it's rocky, it's harder to dig, there's a lot of rocks. And if I'm working like in a different city where it's super soft and we can move faster, I can kind of work with my numbers off that.
Yeah.
So it takes a minute to figure it out, but you just, like you said, explore the marketplace, figure out what works for you, figure out how productive your team is. And at the end of the day, as high as you want to charge, there's always competitors around you. So if someone's going to look for a price, they don't just go with like, oh, I want Vivid to do the job. Vivid's going to be the team. No, they look at Vivid's numbers and then they look at, X, Y, and Z's numbers. And then they'll be like, all right, well, give or take 10, 20% more or less. I may be the lowest bidder. I may be the highest bidder. But there's always other options you keep in mind. You didn't just go to a job and say, give me 100,000, and I'll do the job and I'll be sick with it.
Yeah. That's why like, the whole, like when you do the estimates does like take a lot, because you actually also have to think about like in that one moment, like even in those few minutes or seconds that you just meet a potential client, that will determine whether they want to make the sell or not. Like within those few seconds that they meet you. So how you present yourself to a client when you first walk in and how you act with them and how you treat them and will determine if they want to keep you or work with you. Yeah. So that plays a big role in that too. Like you have a lot of relationships with a lot of your clients because of how you present yourself. You could send a salesman out there to them and, send them out there with an iPad and, oh yeah, we're going to take care of this for you and whoop-de-whoop and, and not build a relationship. And I feel like when you get more close and intimate with people, like it makes them feel more comfortable with you. And even though your price may be more or even less than another company, they're going to be like, well, you know what? That guy, Jose, really, like, he really listened to me and he was open to these ideas. And this other guy didn't really listen to a lot of the stuff I had to say. So I'm going to go with Jose because I feel more comfortable. So,
and that's major. That is super major because, you bring at that, I always take on that approach, like the educative approach. I listen. I just listen. I listen. They're telling me this and that. And then at the end, I'm like, can we go through a couple things? I'm going to tell you why this wouldn't work. I'm going to tell you why this plant that you really love, I can't plant it in the sun. It's going to dry up. It's a shade plant. So the more you educate them and show them, value, they'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's weird because the last two guys just said, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. And they wrote their numbers and they're going to send me a quote. No. Why would I charge you to put a plant where it's not supposed to be? Yeah. Or a tree that has crazy root systems be where it's not supposed to be. Like, this is why, we consider ourselves the professionals. We are the professionals. We know our trade. We know our skills in our marketplace. And we know we're going to educate you guys on, what are the proper steps? A lot of people are like, oh, I want to do the landscaping and then I'll do the hardscaping after. No, there's the proper steps. First you do hardscaping, walls, retaining walls, then you do your landscaping. So people sometimes they just don't know. And when they come in and tell you, can you do this and that? And all you do is say, oh yeah, we'll take care of it. And then, they find out that that's the wrong way to start the project, or that, that plant wasn't supposed to go there,
Mm-hmm.
or, the pergola is not up to code or whatever. Like, we have to educate them and inform them of what is the right thing to do. And then they'll find more value and be like, all right, you know what? You were 20% more, but I really like your approach. And don't always just really go up to a client and try to upsell them on everything,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't even try to do that.
Yeah.
I don't even try to upsell or anything like that. I just try to give them my rate and what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned. Like I said, it took me a while to finally get to a place where I can find my niche for what I do.
Mhm.
And like now I just base my rate off of like the budget, and if you don't have a budget, I'm gonna give you what I think
Yeah.
you should pay me. And I've gotten a lot of people turn me down. A lot of people turn me down. I always get a lot of people in the landscape industry hit me up for work.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as I give them a number,
They're like,
it's
fuck.
crickets.
Yeah.
And they're all hyped up. Oh, I really like what you do for Vivid. Like, I want to do this for, my business. I just want to highlight a project that I did. How much do you charge? And I give them a number, and they're like, and I'm like, great. I'm like, I'm not going to drop my price down for, for that, for some people who don't feel that
Yeah.
that's my worth. Like,
But that's the thing too. Yeah, people gotta understand. Realistically, you gotta pay to play. Like, and if I always, for some reason, I always understood that. Like early on, I was just dumping money in marketing, building the brand, and just making it, what we are today. And I knew it cost, a lot of money on my pockets and everything to invest into it, but it was the right thing to do long term. And people rather, fuck, dude. $500, $1,000 for a video or whatever.
mm-hmm.
They're thinking like, shit, that's a payment for my razor, bro, my Can-Am, dude. Like, I'd rather go fucking have some fun. But what has a better turnaround? Like
Exactly.
a epic video that can bring more customers and bring more business, or a weekend of just having a great time. But which is not bad. You can do it every now and then. But I just always figured I'm going to just invest into my business, invest it later on. The fruit would give, and I'll enjoy the fruit later on long term. I'm not in no rush to, live my best life and travel and have all these fancy things or anything. I want to grow my business. I want to build a strong, firm foundation. I want to grow a team. I want to, give back to employees and just overall build a great culture. And with trial and error, we've been doing it, we have hard times, we have good times. And that's just the way a business is built. You can't just, expect to be this strong business or whatever, but you don't want to invest into it. How are you going to keep the pipeline full if you're not investing into marketing and advertisements or whatever? How are you going to get the attention? You need the attention, so you make $2,000 profit on a project. You want to put 500 back into marketing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just it's the ratio. I don't know the exact numbers, the metrics or anything, because I don't track that. I just work, like you said, on the job. If I see I need more work, I push harder on the marketing or whatever. If I see that we need another truck, that the pipeline's too full, we can't get to jobs, I get another truck, I get some, train more people, hire more people, and then we grow that way. But I don't have a set ratio or data that says, at this percentage of growth comes this percentage of investment, which gives you this percentage of return. Like I don't really track things that way.
Yeah.
I look at my numbers and I know where I'm off and where I'm good, but I don't really have a formula of say, hey, look, if you want to grow, this is the precise moment you want to buy another truck.
Yeah.
I think everyone will figure that along the way as you're growing and as you're expanding and as the pipeline is getting full and the demand is really high for your business. But yeah, I mean, what else would you recommend as far as like someone learning their numbers or getting started on how to price? What about taxes and all that? Like, do you keep anything?
Yeah.
For that,
I think the taxes is something you'll learn as you begin. To like notice like where you're, because like not everybody's gonna be in the same position as us, where like this is solely our bread and butter. Like
Mm-hmm.
some people start a business and they're still
Working a day
working their
job.
9 to 5.
Mhm.
So, you know, it just depends on like where you're at when it comes to taxes. I think taxes is probably like a separate type of thing when it comes to this, when it comes to like knowing your pricing and stuff like that, because, you know, you could be working a 9 to 5 and not showing any income from
Like
your business.
your
Like,
side gig,
so,
huh?
you know, it just depends. But if you're solely trying to do this, yeah, definitely save money. Save money. I'm going into my first year of taxes this year, so wish me luck. Let's see how it turns out.
That's an LLC, right?
Yeah,
Because
as an
before you
LLC.
were
Before it was all just side money,
sole,
like
sole proprietor.
sole
or something?
provider. Yeah, so it was just you know, we're gonna see how it goes this year. I'm nervous, but at the same time not worried. So yeah, I mean, definitely understand your marketplace, the industry that you're getting into, know the budget of what it may cost, and know your worth. You know, that's it. I don't, you know, I don't think there's anything else. We don't have to get down to the nitty gritty of like
No, just
material and all that other
yeah.
stuff. Like you don't have to understand that. Just know that if you know it costs $3 to get a t-shirt and you charge $10 for the t-shirt, like you have to understand why you charge $10.
Yeah.
You know, so think about that. You have anything else to say?
Just, you know, don't be afraid of your numbers. Sometimes starting early on, that's like the thing that gets us shaky and sweaty, and it's
Yeah.
like, you know what, I'm gonna drop this and I'm gonna drop this, and you know, don't be afraid of what if you're calculating it and that's what it shows to be, just send that over. Don't be hesitant to send it over.
Yeah.
But like you said, starting off, sometimes you got to give some freebies. You gotta work with the client just to build that reputation up, build that brand up, strengthen it up, and then you can work with numbers. Because I know for me, one time I was working with an architect, and you know, I had always price corrections, right? So this guy was like, "Hey Jose, let me talk to you." He was giving me a lot of work, and then he's like, "Dude, your company is set up just right. You got a great team. You got them all in uniforms. You have foremans. You're a good sales guy. Your trucks are nice. They're presentable. They have clean look logos." And he's like, "But your prices are a little low compared to what I've been working with."
Yeah.
And it was, dude, super nice of him to come out and say, share that to me.
Yeah.
So what I was like, well, for real. And it's funny because at a point of my life where, you know, I think it was the second or third year in, and I thought I was charging good. I'm making it, you know, because I was able to expand and everything. But this guy comes to me and he's just like, "Hey, look, I'm going to work with you. Look, these are the competitive companies that I'm working with." And I was stupid low, bro. I was like, God damn.
How far off were you?
Like the project that we did was 72,000. I got the bid. The other guy was 86, and the highest one was 98,000.
Wow.
And I was at 72. But for me, at that time, we were really good at what we do, and we had speed. Like we would be quick, like really quick. I don't know if that bought me time or you know, was able to cushion a profit there or whatever, but I always felt like our profits were pretty good. But when he showed me that, I was like, God damn, like I'm really that off? He was like, you gotta like work with your numbers. So he gave me some mentoring and everything, and I was like, oh shit, like good to know, you know, because I mean, and it's all like brand wise, like you present yourself the right way, you invest in your company the right way, you have more room for growth with your numbers. Yeah. And so just don't be scared of your numbers, guys. If you calculate whether you want to do by daily rate, by materials, overhead, hourly, whatever. I mean, just make sure you're getting enough for yourself to invest back into your business, to, you know, for taxes, for your employees, you know, pay them well, take care of them. Yeah. And then, you know, you'll do good, but it's all trial and error. Like my experience, probably the same as yours. It was all trial and error, you know, like I grew up in, you know, thinking, oh, I'm winning 120, I'm going to charge 200. And then fucking by the end of the project, I'm like, damn, I had to pay for gas. I had to pay for the insurances and
food.
Shit, I only made 100, you know, so I'm making less than what I thought I was going to make. So it's all trial and error. And I think that's it. I think I just want to tell people, don't be afraid of your numbers. Really look at data. Like Carlos says, look at data, analyze how much time is it taking you? Because, every team works differently. If you have 4 or 5 crews, they're not all going to give you the same production rate. That's it. I think that's a good wrap.
Yeah.
Close this off or anything else, or
you broke it all down in a nutshell right there for us.
In a nutshell.
Yeah. And then also separate your finances. Big one. It's definitely separate your finances, personal from business, separate those.
Oh yeah.
100%. As soon as I did that, I found that, it was easier to manage, way easier to manage.
Yeah.
So, when it's only your own bank account, you're more easier to swipe. And then when it's in a business bank account, you're like, well, I can't touch that money till this date. So,
yeah.
So
there's a book actually before we close it off called Profit First. Profit First has they have the original book, and then they have like Profit First for contractors, for CPAs, for gardening maintenance. They have, for every trade or every space, they have a book especially devoted to that area.
Cool.
So that's a good book to look at, because it teaches you how to separate for taxes, for personal, for investments, for growth, and there's like this formula that you can customize to fit your own needs for your business and for yourself. So I've read it. I read the original one, and I'm actually the original one. I read one that says for contractors, but I actually just saw the one for landscapers. So I'm gonna go back and get deeper into that. Sweet. And read that one for the landscapers.
Right. So you have some more information for us for the landscapers that listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
All right.
But there it is, guys. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for tuning in. As always, we appreciate everyone listening in, sharing the podcast, following in, and supporting the movement here. I think we're gonna close it out. So thanks, guys, again, and always stay shining, stay grinding.